What's up, War Report family? It's Fan Question Friday. So get your questions ready. Let's drop it on.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
What's up, War Report family? It's your boy Mike G. I'm here with B Will. It's Fan Question Friday. You guys dropped your questions on Twitter. We want to get more questions in the chat. B Will, good morning. How's it going? Are you ready to talk some Auburn football here?
Going pretty good, man. If y'all want to know what type of morning I'm having, I am having a triple cup morning. See, if you're used to the party scene in the early 2000s, you know that this meant something. As an adult, this means something completely different. The stronger the coffee, the more cups I got. That's what's going on this morning.
I feel that. I feel that. I didn't even get a chance to get my coffee this morning. But, hey, let's jump right in. Listen, on Twitter, you guys hit us up. And before we get to the questions, I do want to talk a little bit about this quarterback battle. Last night, I got a chance to talk to the guys from the Up-Tempo podcast. They had a lot of questions for me, B, about Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford and what's what. I know the fans have a lot of questions about who stands where. Before we get started, I want to ask you and get your thoughts one more time. Man, how much of a leg up does Peyton Thorne have in this race going into the fall?
You know what? I'm glad we got Ike, the film guy, off the show. He's too objective. And he's going to look at film and give us facts. We don't need that. We need wild conjecture at this point in the offseason, all right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
That's exactly what we need. So Ike gave us a lot of film yesterday. He went all in on some Peyton Thorne film yesterday for all the Patreon members. If you're a subscriber, you got to see and break down some of the stuff that Peyton Thorne does well. I think one was for everybody to see, but the rest of it was behind the paywall for us. So if you want to see it, become a subscriber right here on the YouTube channel and go do that. Now, I didn't get to watch the whole thing of Ike's breakdown. I had a pretty good idea of who Peyton Thorne was from the stats. All right. If the run game was great and the defense was solid, then he looked fantastic. When that stuff disappeared, his performance declined. But however, his performance did not decline to a level that was embarrassing. 16-10 is still more touchdowns than interceptions. And you could say, oh, well, it's not a good ratio. It's not a great ratio, but
I think 19-10, right? 19-10, maybe
for his 22 season.
Yeah, I think it was 19-10.
Okay, well, that's better than I thought. I mean, if you're almost at 2-1 with what you lost, with how bad, and because again, I went over some of these stats. So I think it was the weekend tailgate. The offensive line stepped back significantly. The defense took a step back significantly for Michigan State. Under those circumstances, if you were completely dependent on what was around you, then your performance would have fallen off a cliff. Now, it definitely fell off for sure because you had to do more. And I don't think it fell off as much as I initially remembered. Like I looked at the 5-7 record and said, why are we going after a guy who was 5-7, which wins shouldn't be a QB stat for the record. I'm on that boat along with everybody else who says that. Wins are not a QB stat, just like wins shouldn't be a pitcher stat. ERA is a pitcher stat. So looking at some of his film, looking at his touchdown to interception ratio in the season where he did not have Kenneth Walker, the third back there, toting it, and where Michigan State's defense was not top 5 in their conference, I think he's a solid quarterback. And how much he learned or grew from the season he had last year, I think we'll find out here under the circumstances that Hugh Freeze is trying to build. I think if Hugh Freeze expects this, hey, that guy got a raw deal yesterday with what they had around him, I can make him better. If you want to, it's really hard to compare college to the NFL, but in 2021, the Jacksonville Jaguars were under Urban Meyer, and they were awful. They were god-awful. They were terrible. 1 year later, Doug Peterson comes in and goes, I got it. I'm an adult. I got it. Oh, my God, they're winning a playoff game. They didn't just make it to the playoffs. They won a playoff game in dramatic comeback fashion against another team. The Chargers are a great team, but they're a playoff team. Where you are and who's running the ship for you can make a dramatic difference. Mel Tucker is a defensive head coach. It's not to say they didn't have a good offensive head coach at Michigan State. I don't know what they had. I know their offense wasn't good. Their O-line wasn't good. They had a couple playmakers at wide receiver, probably more than we had last year. But hey, he had something. He showed something. And if Hugh Freeze, true to his word, yeah, he gave guys a look when they jumped in the portal, but he wasn't jumping at everybody. For him to jump at this guy, for this to be the guy, he said, no, that I see it. I see it. I see something. I think that's more than he probably saw. And this is me estimating because Hugh Freeze has not said this. I think he saw more potential in Peyton Thorne's tape than he saw in Robbie Ashford's tape and Holding Gurner's potential to this point in their careers.
Right.
That's what I thought. Because of that, I think he probably has a leg up in the competition. He's bringing in somebody who he thinks can do more of the things that he wants to do right now. Not who will have to grow into it, but that can do it right now. I think that's why Peyton Thorne has a leg up in this competition.
Listen, I know that this whole talk, this quarterback talk, is stressing a lot of people out. So if you're stressed out, get on over to the Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Use code RAPPORT to get 15% off that Rogue Shop order. This segment is brought to you in part by the Rogue Shop. We love them. They're a longtime sponsor of the War Report, doing great work for us. So stress, sleep, anxiety, pain, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has you covered. So rogueshop.com, use code RAPPORT. Let them know the War Report sent you. Let's get to some questions here, B, from the fans. We asked you guys on Twitter to drop us we have a few questions in here. We want to get the questions going in the chat as well. So drop your questions in the chat. After the mid-show break, we'll get to the chat questions. But S. Riley asked if Thorne wins, both Holden and Ashford be in the portal in December.
Whoo, that's a loaded question because that presumes a lot about how the season plays out. Though, number one, that if Peyton Thorne wins the job, that he starts and stays healthy. That's the first presumption because we've seen guys get in because of injury and then not give the job back. The urgency that will be created from Thorne winning the job for Robbie Ashford, I think, is immense how much urgency that will create for him. And again, I think you said this, and I'm going to repeat this. If he stays focused, whether he wins the job or not, you are always just one play away. And it's not even a play where your offensive lineman missed or your QB got clobbered. Nah, man, it's I ran wrong trying to escape pressure, and now my ankle's weird. Like I remember when Bo got hurt in 2021, it didn't even look like he got hurt when he hurt his ankle. He just made a throw, and then he came up gimpy. So Robbie Ashford is always going to be, he needs to always be ready, but he's just one play away from getting in there and taking control of the offense. I hope that he stays focused for that opportunity. And there's no guarantee it could happen. I mean, listen, we've had QBs come here and play the entire season unscathed. Bo Nix was an iron tank for the first 2 years he played. He took all kinds of hits and escaped all kinds of pressure and never got hurt. And I remember Stidham. I remember thinking Stidham was like, he's not really the toughest built guy, but he stayed back there 2 years behind that offensive line that really didn't do much work for him, especially that second year. It was under a lot of pressure. So it's not unfathomable that Peyton Thorne can get the job and stay healthy, but football is football. It's a physical sport. People get hurt. Robbie stays healthy, and then he takes over. What does that look like for the next year? Because Peyton Thorne has 2 years of eligibility, not just one.
That's right.
You come in and get hurt. Sure, you could say, well, I'm going to come back. I want my job back. But listen, man, Robbie Ashford balls out. I don't think he's giving his job back. I think that's a guarantee. If he gets this job, if he gets the ball and they play ball behind him, with him, and they really give him the opportunity to grow in the offense, I don't think he gives it back. That's my personal belief.
I think you could probably argue Thorne is closer to hitting his ceiling than the other two.
Correct.
Right. He's probably closer to hitting the ceiling than the other two because we've seen a lot of him, and the other guys don't have a lot of experience. I do believe somebody's out of here, though, if Thorne plays well. Yeah. I think that if he has, let's say, 3,200 yards, 25 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, somebody's out of here. Who it's going to be, it'll be interesting to see, but we'll see if he can stay healthy. I know a lot will depend on offensive line B. Thorne, we've noted the PFF numbers are pretty clear. When on the run, he's not very good. Right. And that could be said of a lot of quarterbacks, but it's particularly pertinent here if the offensive line plays anything close to the way they did the first half of last season.
Right.
All right. Yeah. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. So we'll see what kind of offense they can dial up if if Thorne is under constant pressure.
Peyton Thorne. Those consonants and it didn't work
Peyton
out great.
Thorne.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, no such thing as Peyton Thorne.
Turned him into Jimmy G already.
I'm dead. So anyway, those are just my thoughts on it. Like I said, I think it's going to be a battle. I think whoever wins number 2 needs to stay ready. For a myriad of reasons. Injury 1, and just not playing well 2, or just who knows? Maybe one of the other quarterbacks fits. Is a better threat against the defense that they're playing. We'll see how Hugh Freeze decides to manage it. On to our next question. At Bo Hightower on Twitter says, what do y'all think our offense looks like in the red zone? Do you think when we get down there, he said implicate, but I think he meant employ packages for Robbie.
And there's a second part to that. Employ packages for Robbie, or has Peyton Thorne shown enough on film to be able to finish drives inside the 25?
Okay, so the packages thing, right? Like, I get asked this question a lot. Again, the up-tempo guys asked me this last night. Do you think like Robbie Ashford has just got too much athletic ability to keep him off the field, right? Mike, is what they're asking me. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure how Hugh Freeze is going to manage this, right? Or if you put him in, is it goal line stuff? Do you give him meaningful opportunities to throw the ball within the flow of the offense? Are you just utilizing his legs? Hugh Freeze doesn't really give us any indication that he plans to be switching out quarterbacks. B, what are your thoughts on this?
He hasn't given any plan. He hasn't shown it in his history. And on top of that, I think using your running quarterback in certain packages and certain positions is advantageous when you lack an offensive line to really hold up in the red zone. When defenses don't have to retreat so far away from the line of scrimmage, they don't have to be far away from the action, and they can get to the ball carriers much quicker. They can cover the wide receivers in a much tighter area, which makes it imperative for you to be able to win in some way down in the red zone. Usually for us, that had been, well, the quarterback is going to be the guy that you're not going to be able to account for just by numbers. So if he's a run threat, we have an easier time scoring in the red zone. This year, again, we can't make too much out of what we saw at A-Day, right? Number one, it was raining. They weren't going to throw a lot. Number two, the defensive line the defensive effort against the run may not have been indicative that the run game for us is great. It may have been our defensive run game needs work. So if that's the case, it's easy to say, oh, well, our run game was great. Our offensive line is going to be great. I hope that's the case. And if that is the case, we may have so many more tools at our disposal. We've got Fairweather as a red zone target now, as a true target at tight end. We have not had a true passing target at tight end since, I don't know, Uzama?
Yeah, right.
It's been a very long time. You've got the running back that we have in Jarquez Hunter, who's outstanding. Now, we've had outstanding running backs the last 10 years, but we haven't had one without outstanding offensive line maybe since Carry-On. And he could do everything he wanted, which, ironically, that was the last time we had a mostly passing quarterback that wasn't a true run threat. When you've got the offensive line and the run game, you don't need your quarterback to be scrambling. You don't need it. Will it make it better? Yes, but a quarterback who is dangerous and accurate with his arm in a protected pocket is equally as dangerous as a running quarterback with a mediocre offensive line. So what I'm thinking is get the run game right, get the offensive line right. If they get that right, I don't think you see a second quarterback on the field.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you. Listen, the second half of this question, has Peyton Thorne shown enough on film to be able to finish drives inside the 25? Now, I think that his film shows that he can make plays when given time. I'm not sure this is the quarterback that saves you, though, when things break down. And this is where college football is kind of going to some extent. Quarterbacks who can save the day, quarterbacks who can get out of the pocket, who can move, who can make throws on the run, are winning. And those who can't are having a hard time. Defenses are getting more athletic. They're getting tougher, right, to guard against. Mm-hmm. And in the SEC in particular, you're playing around future draft picks all over the place. So I'm not sure his film shows that he's anything more than what the numbers say. A serviceable quarterback that will put you in a position to win, and you just need to have a good game plan for him. I think this is going to be more about game plan than it is about Peyton Thorne. Can they scheme guys open for him? Right. Because I'm not sure I'm depending on him to find the guy or throw the guy open. Right. I think you got to scheme him open. And I think that if you do that, he can make the throw.
Well, I don't know that that's not the case because, again, I didn't do all of the in-depth. We have the same way we're going to give Holden Geriner and Robbie Ashford the potential and room to grow and get better, which is why we were excited about seeing them. I also have to assume that Peyton Thorne has room to get better and improve as well. So saying that, if he hasn't shown, if his last season was mediocre, which still 19-10 is not incredibly mediocre considering, but if that was your last season, then I'm going to give you a little A. I'm going to estimate upward. If I'm going to say Hugh Freeze is a good offensive coach, he knows how to make offense go. He knows how to make teams better by making the offense better and how to recruit well. Then I'm going to assume he can do that for all the quarterbacks that are on our roster now. And that includes Peyton Thorne, putting him in positions where he can succeed. I don't want to take away the possibility that Peyton Thorne could improve his game and reach that ceiling. To your point, you said he's closer to his ceiling than the other guys. Cool. Well, Hugh Freeze, take him up that little bit of room and have him hit his ceiling. And then I think, what are we shooting for? Do we think we have realistic championship expectations this season? I don't. I would love to be wrong. But if the difference between a guy who is pass ready right now as an efficient passer and has the ability to go up to be a little bit better, if you're telling me he can get us to 8-9 wins, I'll take that.
Yeah, 8-9 wins would be amazing in year one, right? So, I think that if you look at what Peyton Thorne has done, man, look in the year that they went 11-2, he had a great run game to lean on, and I think that they can reproduce that with Jarquez Hunter if this offensive line run blocks like they did over the last half of last season, right? So, we'll see what they can do. It's one of those things where, if you look at it, it's just one of I don't know, man. Like I got some mixed feelings about this Peyton Thorne discussion.
Yeah, I can tell.
I think he's a very capable quarterback. He is a capable quarterback, and I see people in the comments, people jump on me all the time. They're just like, Mike, why are you so down on Peyton Thorne? I'm like, I'm not down on him. But I do think that it's paramount to temper expectations to some extent because there's a lot we don't know about what they're going to do with them, how they're going to use them, and how the players around him are going to play, right? And I think that will have something to do, especially for Robbie, because he has the ability to create, right? And to, do something dynamic when plays break down. So, it's one of those things where, listen, it's got to work out for Hugh Freeze in year one. They went out and they got their guy. They were always going to get a guy. And they brought him in. His name is Peyton Thorne. So we'll see how that goes. So we don't know where their ceiling is at, but we know that if you have a ceiling and it's hot, Harman Mechanical is here for you to help you keep that ceiling cool this summer. They're servicing the Auburn area. Our boy B. Will has actually had them come by the house and check out his HVAC and get him going for the summer. Let them get you going for the summer. HarmanMechanical.com or just dial 334-219 0717. Harman Mechanical, sponsoring the War Report. This segment is brought to you in part by them. We love them for coming on as a sponsor of the War Report. Listen, B, let's get to some questions here in the chat. You guys have been doing a great job dropping comments as always. We're going to start with Jonathan Boyson. I think he has a leg up, but I don't think from his film he's a sure thing. I think Hugh Freeze likes the fact that he has tape on him and knows what he's getting from him, unlike Robbie and Holden. I'd have to agree with this. He's just got more tape to look at than the other two. And Hugh Freeze said coming in, listen, the tape that Robbie and Holden do have, it's useless because there was no blocking.
Right.
What am I going to glean about those guys from that tape?
Right.
You got more to look at with Peyton Thorne than you do with the other two.
Right.
Fair statement, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Lee Carter says, who's Peyton Thorne? According to some, the savior of Auburn football. We'll see.
Is anybody saying that? Is anybody really saying savior? Because I haven't seen that.
Oh, dude, listen, it's ridiculous, the comments that are out there. Jonathan Boyson comes back. INTs were up last year because of how much they had to throw doing to be behind so much in games. Like, I have to say this, right? This was something that Harsin talked about quite a bit. He would say, and we looked at the numbers, and he was actually right. They would start the first quarter perfectly balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And then something would go wrong and they get behind, and then all of a sudden they're throwing the ball way more than they're passing it. How does Hugh Freeze keep this offense balanced in 2023?
Mm-hmm. well, having a run game that can do what it wants to do. We've got some outstanding backs, and again, I'm trying not to get my hopes up. The thing I'm most excited about this year is the run game. What having a powerful, consistent run game will allow us to do. It should get really easy for the pass game to work if the run game is clicking. I'm really excited about that prospect. And yeah, that's true. You will throw fewer interceptions if your first option, which would be the run game, is working like crazy. Listen, man, we can hand off for 5 straight carries and be in the red zone from our own 25. Like that's possible. So his interceptions would go down dramatically if you have less attempts. Not only did his interceptions were his interceptions up because they were coming from behind, they were coming from behind because their defense was bad. Do we think our defense is going to have us in a hole every game? I don't expect that to be the case. We've got some things to work on, surely, on the front, but we're improving the front. We got a new edge. We got some new defensive linemen. So I don't think we're going to be in the position he was in at Michigan State.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying as far as his interceptions. Now, what Hugh Freeze wants to do with the offense, who's going to be our biggest targets, we don't even know what wide receiver is going to step out there first. We're still in it for a couple of wide receivers in the transfer portal. Our whole start, we could have Fairweather at tight end, not definite, but just hypothetically, Keon Coleman at wide receiver, the guy from North Texas that's a really big deep threat at wide receiver, and Caleb Burton underneath in the slot. Would any of that suggest that we have any idea what to expect? Because those guys have never been in an Auburn uniform. They've never been in an Auburn uniform together. They've never been on the same field together. We're grabbing guys from 3 and 4 different teams and putting them on the field in, 4 months?
Yeah.
We can't say for sure exactly what's going to look like with the pass game. He could have a much better situation, or to your point, maybe something doesn't work early. Who knows? What I do know is the run game needs to work, and if the run game works, off top, the interceptions are dropping off, and that's what I want to see.
Hey, listen, I can't argue with that. Corey Weber says Peyton Thorne can make the throws needed to make this offense successful. A good run game is imperative. I don't disagree with Corey here. My only caveat is given that there's protection for him.
Right.
If he's protected, I believe this to be true. James Barnett, fellas, I've heard that Thorne is in a better position coming into Auburn because of better talent and O-line. Why can't the same be true of Robbie? These excuses for one and not the other are suspect. I agree with this. I think with better O-line play and having time to throw and more developed receivers, Robbie could potentially make the same jump. Why? I think people will just feel more sure about what they've seen. And when you look at Thorne's tape, you've seen him do it at the Power 5 level, at the P5 program, and you're just thinking all he has to do is recreate those numbers here, and you're already in better shape. But when you haven't seen it, James, I think a lot of people are skeptical, although I agree with you. So I think that's the dynamic that's kind of going on there. Corey comes back and says, I'm not pulling for Robbie or Peyton. I'm pulling for Auburn to win games. Don't care who takes the snaps. I believe this is where most fans should be at.
Yeah.
Right. The debate about who is still fun, though, Corey. All right. And so we like to have the debate about who. We all have our opinions, and most of us are wrong. So Jonathan Boyson says, James, not excuses, but Coach Hugh Freeze has seen film on Peyton when he has that. He doesn't for Robbie or Holden. Again, it's kind of reiterates a point that we're saying. There's not solid tape on the other two.
Right.
There's not solid tape you can evaluate. So they've got to do more in practice. They've got to do more in meetings. They've got to do more to prove to Coach Hugh Freeze that they can go out there and be composed and poised and be leaders on Saturday, right? Right, B?
Yeah, but also with that, Hugh Freeze did get to see these guys for spring and still decided, nah. I mean, he was going to go get one more anyway, and he said that. We got to have 4 QBs on the roster.
Yeah, you got to have 4.
Right. Okay, so you got to have 4. The idea that Peyton Thorne is leading in the clubhouse is this is the first chance that Hugh Freeze has had to go and get a quarterback for him choose this quarterback to play for Auburn this year. So the recruit he got coming in that was committed to Liberty, Hank Brown, he wasn't a guy that was going to play for Auburn this year. This is a guy who was going to be recruited to Liberty and probably sit. Robbie and Holden were here, but of course he didn't choose them. No matter what their potential is, like Ike said on Wednesday, very astutely, Hugh Freeze has a type. He has a type. This is the first time he's going to get a guy, I think, who is more his type than either one of the guys he inherited here. And I think that's why the guess that, okay, Peyton Thorne's got to be leading. Kind of. You can be your boss's guy because, hey, I'm going to this new place. You're going to come with me. Okay, cool. I'm bringing my guy in. This is Mike. He's a sales genius. He does the thing. I know this is a new company and y'all don't know me. I know a lot of you here thought you were going to get the sales job. No, you know why? Because this is Mike. Because from where I come from, I know he can do exactly what I need him to do. Y'all just give him a warm welcome. He's a part of the team now. Welcome, Mike, to the business, to the company. I think that's what's going on as much as anything. Does that mean that there is no talent at that company where you went? Does that mean that those guys cannot sell? Absolutely does not mean that. It means I know this guy can do it right now. Y'all can get there, but I know this guy can do it right now. I think that's what's going on.
Okay. All right. Listen, man, we'll see how it plays out. PPAS says if you play Madden or NCAA college football, Thorne had rookies everywhere. NCAA college football still educating fans on who's what on the team. Real big when we were in college. PPAS, again, who is the SEC equivalent of Pittsburgh? Tennessee right now? Thorne cooked them. I think Tennessee's a little better than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they are. They're a little better, and they got better over the course of 2021 and 2022.
Amazing last year, right? Like,
now, that doesn't mean they're going to be better this year, but Thorne cooked mediocre defenses for the most part, and that's not even a knock. Listen, man, matchups are a thing. The talent that was there at the time when he played them is a thing. I don't know if what Pittsburgh final ranking ended up being as far as pass defense or defense overall. I don't know if we're going to see a team equally matched with Pittsburgh. That's going to be one of the 4 or 5 games that are going to be a toss-up for us. But yeah, I don't know if there is an SEC equivalent of a certain team because, hey, these teams change every year. Every year. We don't know what anybody's going to be in the SEC yet. We haven't even played it down.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I mean, Tennessee was they were blazing last year, and Hendon got hurt, and our guy Joe Milton came in, filled in admirably. So yeah, I think a little better than Pittsburgh. Lisa Daniel says, "I'm excited. Appreciate the super chat. My daughter just got accepted to Auburn. Hey,
congratulations to her.
Love to see the young people making decisions in their best interest. I like to see she's winning." And she's going to win because she chose Auburn. So we appreciate you sharing that, Lisa. And good luck to her in her journeys through college. Martavius 205. I'm not sold on Thorne yet. And with Ike showing the film yesterday on those 50-50 balls, Keon is more of a 80-20 type guy, and we don't have that currently. Now, Let me tell you something. If you're not a Patreon member, you need to be. Go back and watch these film reviews on Thorne. If you want to get really educated on what he is as a quarterback, Ike's doing a great job breaking that down for the patrons. Listen, I think the tape just shows Thorne has ability. He has ability. I think the tape shows that he has ability. And, how it plays out will have a lot to do with the system. A lot of these guys at the Power 5 level, they all have talent. They all have their own version of talent. Mm-hmm. Can the coach get the most out of this quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Can he get the most out of Robbie Ashford? Can he get the most out of Holden Gardner? Mm-hmm. Right? It's not a linear equation, B, right? Like, there are a lot of variables involved, and you might have to use different equations to solve the puzzle for each quarterback. My questions are more about Hugh Freeze than they are about Peyton Thorne. Yeah. All right, so we'll see how that goes. Chris Sanders, if Robbie's issue for not winning the job is still short to medium throws, no defense would respect his arm within the 20-yard line. Red zone packages wouldn't make sense under those circumstances. Unless you can block so well that it just doesn't matter. You got to remember, when you have a running quarterback, you're playing 11 on 11. If everybody wins their job, the offense wins their matchup. The offense wins almost every time.
But now that changes in the cases where we play defenses that are more talented than us on offensive line. There's only a handful. Yeah. Those are even though they lost a lot of it, Texas A&M is still that talented. Georgia, of course, is that talented. Alabama's that talented. Whether or not a LSU might be that talented. So we're going to have 4 to 5 because somebody could surprise us as far as how they end up being constructed this season. And those are the games I think that are in question, though. Those are the ones we're worried about. It's like, do we know we can go out there and out-talent the Ole Miss? Yes. The only reason we didn't beat Ole Miss last year is because we were not good at all. We can out-talent the Ole Miss. We can out-talent in Arkansas because of their attrition. We can probably out-talent a Mississippi State because, Mike Leach not being there, being the genius with the offense, it puts them squarely within our bullseye again. We can out-talent Vanderbilt. We can out-talent Cal. Our offensive line, if they are just good, we got 4, maybe 5 games where, okay, you can't just bully us. And so the run game isn't just going to work easily. You're not going to have that room, whether it's for the running backs or for the quarterback, if he's a Robbie Ashford that can run. What are you going to do? And in those cases, Chris, yes, absolutely. Now it becomes, all right, well, we know he's shaky on intermediate. So let's press these receivers. He's going to have to make a tight throw. Can he do it? If Hugh Freeze believes to win those games, those 4 or 5 games against the superior defensive talent, it's got to be a guy who can make those tight throws intermediate. Then that's why you go and get a Peyton Thorne. Absolutely, I see it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Robbie can do on those throws when his shoulder is not hurt and he can actually feel it because it's not numb from where they're giving him so he can play. So we'll see how that goes. James Barnett, at B. Will, to your point about Freeze having a type, isn't Robbie and Willis similar?
Absolutely, they are. And what I wonder, though, is was Willis Freeze's type or was it out of necessity? He's at Liberty. He needs to rebuild the roster. And here's a guy from the SEC that he knows is talented. And he's like, fine, I'll take you. You're good. And even to your point, he had to sit for a year when he transferred. So he got a whole year to sit and cook and look at what Hugh Freeze was doing and go to practice and get acclimated to that system and that program. Robbie is trying to do this on the fly. And now with a guy in front of him, if you see it that way, who may be more of what the coach wants initially. I don't know if he's going to get the time to sit, the time to just be back there learning. Well, obviously he's not going to get it. He's going to be in a situation where he's going to be competing right now for that job. Willis was going to be the starter when he got there, no matter what, because he was by far the most talented guy in that room. At Liberty, you have to do what you got to do. At Auburn, you got more choices, and that's why I think Thorne is more of a Freeze guy than Robbie is at this point.
Yeah, listen, I think whoever wins that job, their seat's going to be hot, but yours doesn't have to be. You can keep your seat cool with Harman Mechanical. All right. Our friends at Harman Mechanical, they're a heating and air company offering premier service in the Auburn and surrounding areas. Keep your family safe, comfortable with Harman Mechanical's Comfort Plus service plan. With the Comfort Club service plan, you get regular service of your comfort system to help prolong the life of your system and keep it running more efficiently. They're there when you need air at Harman Mechanical. Listen, we're there when you need a little bit of Auburn football on the morning drop. I want to thank everybody for joining us and dropping those questions. We'll be back on Monday to talk more about what happens over the weekend. We got a little baseball. We got a little softball. We got lots of things going on in Auburn sports. So listen, guys, we're out. And as always, War Eagle.